Sally Miniseries Issue 2. We start out Issue 2 with yet another instance of Jeffrey and the pig fighting each other, even though Jeffrey had saved his life earlier. So anyone with human decency, as a true freedom fighter would have learned to respect him by now. Did they not realize this was tiresome? Having this on the first page? Sally's yelling at Jeffrey now? Since when? She just showed up while she's assuming it's Jeffrey's fault and he started it. She was defending him earlier. She reminds them that they fight Robotnik, not each other, and Jeffrey sheepishly apologizes rather than pointing out that he didn't start the fight and she shouldn't be yelling at him. Well, maybe he did, but that wasn't very clear. Sally shows them a map while explaining that they only have one energy substation left to destroy. Wait a minute, if she could have brought paper with her to explain her plan to them, then why was she forced to draw in the sand last time? Did she forget? However, Sally explains that the tension is racked up this time because the next one is armed like a fortress, being on an island with the surrounding waters making it impregnable to all conventional means of attack. Impregnable, huh? She is pretty smart. Advanced vocabulary there, unnecessarily so. Good thing the context makes it obvious what the word means, or the kids this comic was aimed towards would have been really confused. So I guess despite being on an island, the energy station is able to send its energy outside of it just fine. Its electricity cables coming from it are waterproof? Come to think of it, why can't they just destroy the electricity wires delivering the electricity and have the same effect? Well, I guess electricity cables are easier to repair than the whole building, so there'd be no point. Sally decides to bring her team to the top of those cliffs overlooking the atoll to use geography to their favor. She then brings out a new type of non-powered stealth aircraft that Rotor designed. First, non-powered, powered by nothing? A stealth aircraft that's powered by nothing. The only reason she didn't tell her teammates what this was until now is because she needs an excuse to explain to the audience what it is with a visual demonstration. I believe he called them hang gliders, though why I could scarcely begin to imagine. What kind of dialogue is that? How stupid is she that she doesn't know what hang gliders are? Guess that explains the non-powered part. Am I expected to believe Rotor is the first person to ever make this relatively primitive technology? First Sally uses the word impregnable, and then her intelligence does a complete 180. There might be an explanation for this, and maybe the advanced vocabulary too, but I'll have to get to that later. Speaking of her intelligence, she also failed to take into account how dangerous the skies really were, since obviously the hang gliders would get spotted from down below and shot down, forcing them to ditch Arlo for the time being. Why couldn't they just gone to the island in a submarine? They would have never been seen that way. Well, most of them made it here, so I guess it was a smart plan since it was their only shot and it worked. The pig at least showed some human decency for the first time by explaining concern for going on without Arlo. And Sally shows her smart side again by explaining that they have to hurry into the underbrush, because if Robotnik's forces capture them, they won't be able to go back for Arlo. Who I have no idea which one that is, by the way, and I don't really care. Conveniently, Arlo is quickly found, and showing actual consequences to his flying aircraft being shot down. Unlike with Tails the Tornado near the end of Unleashed, because he has a broken leg. And one of the guys in the team stayed behind with him, another showing of humanity. So I can see this issue is really trying to make us at least feel like this is a team that cares about each other, trying to make me warm up to them in that way. But one, that should have happened in issue 1, and 2, because the pig's the only one with a distinct and memorable personality, I still couldn't care one bit about them. They don't really feel like actual people. After Jeffrey magically senses that they're being watched, and Sally disregards that instead of worrying about security cameras. This is never actually explained, by the way. It's never explained that they're being watched. Anyways, they reach their destination, and Sally throws something at the Swapot's head to knock it down so they can all go inside. Just like we rehearsed? How did they do that exactly? Playing pretend? They affix their explosives to the control panels, only for Sally to get grabbed by a giant octopus robot that just came into the room off screen silently enough for her to not hear it coming or be pushed out of the way by someone else. How did they overlook this guy in the room until now? After it grabs some more people, Jeffrey has a line I genuinely really like where he says sarcastically, "I'd almost think you didn't want to be friends," and fixes an explosive to it. And then Sally sprays his eyes with spray paint that she came prepared with in her now purple vest. I like the way it looks, by the way. But it's a little inconsistent that just recently she decided to wear a vest other than the one she always wears, that sentimental value from her old mother figure. Again, this might also have been explained later, but I'll get to that. They all run out of the place in a hurry, with Jeffrey stating that conveniently the other 4 bombs have a 4-second delay. Why is he the only one who knows about this and is able to remind people of it? Shouldn't it be Sally who says this? Wasn't Rotor who made those things? Arlo and the other guy are predictably gone. What do you think would happen when you left them there defenseless? Not that they ever even had a choice. They apparently vanished without a sign of a struggle, which Sally takes as a foreboding clue to get away from there fast. The pig yells at her for trying to leave without them, in both a show of humanity from his loyalty to them and an incredible annoyance where he looks like a jerk again from calling her bonkers and failing to understand Sally's just being practical. Seriously, this pig has done nothing to earn my liking of him. This pig has done almost nothing but be an argumentative jerk up to this point. At least he puts up no resistance as they leave the island on hang glider instead of insisting on wandering the island looking for them and forcing everyone else to run after him. Jeffrey complains that in 2 hours at their camp there's still no signs of them. They're really running on denial and desperation to think they're going to go home just fine. And then the night comes, and shortly before dawn, we see Jeffrey carry Sally, or what we thought was Sally, to the place we saw him go to before, and put her in a pod next to the other Sally we saw. He communicates with someone while bragging that he's been a traitorous double agent and is going to deliver the goods, cuts the message with us not seeing who he's talking to, and then the left Sally gets up, and Jeffrey says that everything's gone according to plan, that no one suspects a thing. I'm guessing the other Sally is a robot, and the Sally we've seen previously was a robot the whole time. Now this might explain why she was wearing a purple vest, why she used unusually advanced vocabulary with impregnable, and why she didn't know what hang gliders were, because she was young and naive, just been created. We cut to Sally and the others at the city limits of Robotropolis, and the pig guy, Hamlet, I think. Ham. Well, at least that's easy to remember for him. But I'm still gonna forget it anyways. The pig guy shoots a bow and arrow at one of the swap bots to capture them all in a cool electric net. And Sally says triumphantly that Robotnik would never expect a daring daylight raid on Robotropolis. The pigs ask in confusion what happened to Jeffrey, and Sally reassures him that he's just taking care of a few last-minute details while Jeffrey brings a robot pod into a building, saying it's the merchandise as promised. Eggman brags that with his Sally robot duplicate in place, the freedom fighters will be led into a trap, and he'll have the true Sally roboticized. I know the issue is trying to convince us that Jeffrey's working with Eggman, this is the real Sally here, but again, since Jeffrey's not a robot, since he has free will, there is absolutely no reason that he would actually be on Robotnik's side. How stupid do they think we are? And since we were already introduced to the concept of Sally robot duplicates, it makes much more sense that this one here is also a robot duplicate, meant to confuse Eggman. And the real Sally is either with the gang or hidden somewhere. Bottom line is, Jeffrey is most logically just tricking Eggman. The only thing that's confusing is that the robot Sallys are perfectly fine to sabotage Eggman. Like, they're perfectly fine with blowing up his energy stations or something. So, did Rotor reprogram them? I guess so. The story was, well, I guess they had to have been knocked unconscious to agree to that. But anyways, this story was written by Mike Kantarovec and Ken Penders. And the only problem I really have with it is the confusion over whether the Sally we're seeing is the real one or not. Although honestly, I don't really care when I'm reading the story, because she acts like Sally would anyways, so I don't really feel like I'm getting cheated. She works just fine for me. Maybe the reason she didn't know what hang gliders were is because that's a robot Sally and she just doesn't have knowledge of them yet, having been created very recently. And I guess the others around her didn't want to make her feel like an idiot by pointing out how ignorant she was being by saying that. Plus she has a purple vest, and says weird advanced vocabulary, so it's not like there weren't any hints. If anything, her being a robot, not the real thing, explains stuff I would have been annoyed by. When it comes to the story in general, while it was once again a pretty basic and simple plot of go to energy station, blow it up, and deal with robot, at least it was predictable. At least it was much better than last time. At least the other freedom fighters here have been able to be necessary and useful, finally, rather than Sally doing all the work, because if they weren't there, with each of them planting one explosive, Sally would have never had the time to place all of her explosives by herself one by one. And of course she'd have been captured by the octopus robot if it weren't for Jeffrey, so this is definitely a more interesting mission, and better use of them than the previous one. This way, all of them are helpful. I can't help but wonder where's Nicole in all this though? Hey, maybe that's a fourth sign! Maybe that was supposed to be a sign that this wasn't the real Sally all along. The real Sally has Nicole with her, or hidden somewhere safe. She wouldn't trust Nicole to someone that's not the real Sally. Would Nicole even agree to that in the first place? I find this complicated plan against Eggman's of Sally and Jeffrey to be confusing, of course. I can certainly understand why it'd be annoying to be confused about where the real Sally is, and how people might complain that it's not really necessary and doesn't have to be this confusing. Especially since, here's the real problem. Isn't it insulting that in the miniseries dedicated to Sally, the Sally who's actually doing stuff in the entirety story is just a robot duplicate? While the real Sally's just been sleeping the whole time. But again, the robot duplicate gives us basically what Sally fans wanted out of the miniseries, which was seeing Sally's personality getting to do some cool stuff the way you'd expect her to, and have her own adventure, separate from Sonic and his friends. And the complicated plan makes Sally and Jeffrey look really smart for being able to make it, while at the same time adding depth to what's otherwise a very basic, simple story about freedom fighters find evil dictator's key building and destroy it and deal with a robot. Even I could have thought of that one. At least this plan creates some intrigue, and some depth to an otherwise basic plot, even if it not being the real Sally doing stuff in a miniseries where she's supposed to be the star could be disappointing. So surprisingly, I'm not really hating the story yet at all. Hey, at least the pig's obnoxious yelling at Jeffrey all the time was constrained to just one scene at the beginning, rather than being the main problem of the issue. They're learning! This is definitely better than the previous one. Let's see how this turns out.